Hey guys, welcome to UnlockHerTech. It's the safe space podcast for women in the tech industry. I am one of your hosts, Jen Carswell. I'm a journalist and broadcaster specializing in business and technology, and I am joined by our resident women in tech, Ellie and Pritty. How are you both doing?
Hi Jen, hi everyone. I'm very well, thank you so much. London is sunny and the weather is getting warm, so I can't complain.
Hi everyone, hi Jen. Doing really well at the moment, and for those that are listening, thank you for joining us.
And today on the podcast, we are diving into quite a big topic, imposter syndrome. So we're going to be discussing what it is, talk through some personal stories. We have a fun quiz to determine what kind of imposter syndrome you might have, and then discuss some coping strategies at the end. So first of all, shall we define what imposter syndrome or imposter phenomenon, as it's sometimes called, what that sort of actually is? So Pritty, can you take us through the definition?
Yep, so this definition is from the National Institute of Health in the US. It's a little bit long, so bear with me. So according to them, imposter syndrome is a behavioral health phenomenon described as self-doubt of intellect, skills, or accomplishments among high-achieving individuals. And these individuals cannot internalize their success and subsequently experience pervasive feelings of self-doubt, anxiety, depression, and or apprehension of being exposed as a fraud in their work. So despite verifiable evidence, they don't believe that, in their successes. So that's the definition.
So seeing that written out or hearing that definition, is that sort of what you thought imposter syndrome was? And are there sort of specific areas within it that you maybe identify with?
For me, I would say yes. There are certain aspects of it in regards to self-doubt, and in some way apprehension. My first experience of that, I can pinpoint to my time at university. I was studying computer engineering, and I had never really thought about the fact that I was female in engineering to a certain degree. Yes, I'm in a male-dominated course, but I was just like, okay, this is the course that I'm doing. I'm just going to go and do my work and get out. But the time when I started doubting myself, we were in a lecture, and our lecturer asked us, so what are your guys' plans? Have you started applying for jobs? Or you started interviewing and everything like that? And one of the guys piped up and said, well, if she's interviewing, she's going to get an easier opportunity than I did if I interviewed, because she's going to get the job because she's meeting a certain quota. And at the time, I never thought about my gender as the aspect of it. I always thought about, yes, I'm Black and that I'm going to be meeting a kind of area in the status quo, but I never thought about myself as being a Black woman in tech. And then that was going to be another factor. So it started bringing those doubts of, if I start applying for a job, is it going to be around my skills?
And Ellie, how about you?
I think to answer to your question is yes, I definitely experienced that. I got a job I got a job as a software engineer in tech industry by completing a 1-year boot camp. And I always felt, was I lucky enough or did I earn it? I mean, after all of those hard work, I knew deep down I earned this and this is one of my achievements. But I always questioned it, and I always face self-doubt if it's true or not. And I think this is a common feeling between all of the bootcamps graduates, because after I mentored few people when I graduated and I got a job, I also saw that other graduates from the same bootcamp or other bootcamps also feel the same. And I saw that this is a common feeling between all of the bootcamp graduates. Yeah, that's me really.
So do you think that it was about the training or something to do with sort of your own feeling of sort of self?
I think it comes down to the society expectations. I think everyone thinks you need to go through like a university degree to be able to show that you are talented and you have enough skills to be able to get a job. I think it comes down to like, oh, I finished this course by entering this boot camp, and I'm a boot camp graduate. I'm not a university graduate, and I think that's the expectation the society has for everyone, and I think it comes to that.
Okay. So now we're going to move on a little bit and talk about 5 subgroups of imposter syndrome, and these were coined by Dr. Valerie Young. So Ellie, can you just take us through what they are, please?
Sure. So we have the perfectionist. The perfectionist feels like anything less than perfect is a failure. The expert believes they must know everything before feeling qualified. The natural genius thinks success should come effortlessly and doubts themselves if they struggle. The soloist feels like asking for help means they are not capable enough, and the superhero pushes themselves to overwork to prove their worth.
Okay, great. So now we're going to do a little quiz and see which personality types you are, and everyone listening, at home, wherever you are, you can follow along, and you can also get some insight into which personality type you might be as well. So for each one, I'm going to read out 6 statements. You give yourself a score from 1 to 5. So 1 is strongly disagree, and 5 is strongly agree. And then you add up the scores for each one, and you determine sort of which one you identify with most. Okay.
Okay.
So, perfectionist. Okay, so this is the first category, or the first category that we're going to go through. So, perfectionist. 1, I feel anxious when I make mistakes, even if they're small. So, if you strongly agree, you give yourself a 1. If you strongly disagree, you give yourself a 5. Okay, so number 2, I set extremely high standards for myself and I get disappointed if I don't meet them. Number 3, I often spend too much time on a task trying to get it just right. Number 4, I feel like I'm not good enough if I do something flawlessly. Sorry. I feel like I'm not good enough if I don't do something flawlessly. Number 5, I have trouble delegating tasks to others because I don't trust them to do it perfectly. And number 6, I beat myself up over tiny errors that others might not even notice. Okay, so that's the perfectionist. Now we're going to move on to expert. Statement 1, I feel like I need to know everything about a subject before I can consider myself an expert. Number 2, I'm hesitant to take on new projects or roles because I don't feel like I know enough. Number 3, I feel like I'm not qualified to do something unless I've had extensive training or education. Number 4, I feel like I need to be certified or accredited in order to be taken seriously. Number 5, I worry about being asked a question I don't know the answer to. And number 6, I spend a lot of time researching and reading to stay up to date in the latest developments of my field. Okay, now moving on to natural genius. Don't we all want to be natural geniuses? Right, so first statement. I feel like I should be able to figure things out on my own without needing to ask for help. Number 2, I get frustrated if I don't pick up a new skill or concept right away. Number 3, I feel like I'm not smart or talented enough if I struggle with something. Number 4, I expect myself to be naturally good at things even if I have no experience. Number 5, I worry about being seen as stupid or incompetent. Number 6, I feel like I should be able to achieve success without having to work hard. Right, next one, I think that this is, we have second last one. So we're at the soloist. So I feel like asking for help is a sign of weakness. Number 2, I prefer to work alone, even if it means doing everything myself. Number 3, I feel like I'm not capable enough if I need to ask for help. Number 4, I worry about being seen as dependent or needy. Number 5, I feel like I should be able to handle everything on my own. And number 6, I get anxious about delegating tasks or responsibilities to others. Right, and lastly, the superhero. So, number 1, I feel like I need to work longer hours to prove my worth. Number 2, I take on too much responsibility and overcommit myself. Number 3, I feel like I'm not doing enough even when I'm working long hours. Number 4, I worry about not being seen as a hard worker. Number 5, I feel like I need to constantly be productive and achieving. And number 6, I get anxious about taking breaks or time off. So those are the categories. So the highest total reveals the competence type you most identify with. So add up all of your scores, and then maybe Pritty, I'm going to come to you first and say from that little quiz, which ones did you identify with most?
Okay, so the ones I had the highest score in was the perfectionist and the expert. There were 20, 20 each one. The other ones were like still in double digits, but more around like 12, 15. So I would say I see myself as a perfectionist, not because I'm good at it, but because I try to make sure my work is of a high quality for myself. And it's not a standard that someone has set for me. It's more a personal thing that I've set for myself because I feel like, okay, if I get this right, okay, maybe not 100%, but like 99.9%, it will be good. And then that puts me in a loop of, I would say like a constant, I feel like a hamster. I'm just trying to get it done as perfect as possible, and it doesn't really happen. It never happens. So, and I constantly do that to myself. And I'm trying to ease up on that a little. It's going to be a while, but I'm really trying to do that.
And you've always been a perfectionist, like throughout sort of school and education and stuff, that you always had that tendency, or do you think that it's sort of come up later in life?
I think it's something that I've always done. Is something I've always set high achievements for myself. I mean, I'm not a planner. I don't plan ahead, but when I'm doing something, I want to do it well. And that's my mantra that I've always said to myself, no matter what it is, even if I'm learning something new or attacking a new challenge, I want to do that challenge well. And for me, there's a now standard that I've set myself on what that well looks like. I didn't compare it to anybody else's. It's just like, from Britannia's view, this is going to be great. And then I put all my hours into making sure that it's great. But it never, unfortunately, it's kind of like never meets the expectation that I've set for myself. So it's talking myself out of, even if it doesn't meet that ideal that I have set, it's still good. So yeah, I'm working on that.
Ellie, how did you do? Which were the ones that the one or ones that you scored the highest?
The ones that scored the highest are the expert and the perfectionists. But the highest one were the expert actually, because I always feel I need to know everything to start, or I'm not qualified enough when I don't know everything. And I think it's I feel this way. So yeah, for me, the expert was the highest one.
And do you, I mean, even when you sort of like delve into a subject and do lots of research, or, do you ever feel that you're really, really, like 100% an expert, or is that, yeah.
Especially in tech industry, because everything is like changing all the time and you cannot feel that way. And I think I should work on that, because yeah, if I keep going like this, I'm going to always feel bad about my skills. Yeah.
I think I would add to that as well. I would say, like, in the early parts of my career, and especially for those that are transitioning into tech and just finishing university, you slowly realize that whatever you learn on your boot camp or whatever you learn at university is only a micro of what is actually in the company or what's actually in business and what you have to do. So immediately when you start, it's like you're a fish out of water. So you immediately start overwhelming yourself with, oh my gosh, I should have known all of this information. They've now employed me as a junior developer or junior software engineer or whatever. So they're expecting me to actually do things. But it's not realizing that in that time, it's also a learning. You don't have to know 100% of everything. And I learned that after my when I start my job, my first job, and when I started doing other jobs, it's everyone is learning. Even the senior engineer is learning. And in tech, technology changes at least every month. So you're constantly going to be learning all the time. So you can't necessarily be an expert on a specific topic. You can gain a lot of knowledge in a specific area, but then there's always a different version, or there's always a different change, or there's a new regulation that you have to follow, or especially with the use of AI now, it's so many different features and capabilities that you have to now implement. So it's constantly going to be a constant change for you, and your brain is always going to be working.
Yeah.
So I would say ease off of yourself a little bit because there's nothing that you can do that's going to prevent that from happening. And the only thing that you can control is how you personally deal with that. And it took me a lot of experience throughout my career to finally adjust to the pace of the tech environment. So it's going to take some time.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do agree. Sorry to interrupt. I think most of the juniors are facing this. And also I can see it in my job, like whenever I also make a mistake or I have a question, I'm hesitate to ask, because also I feel like this is going to be against your performance, because at the end of the day you want to get promotion. At the end of the day you want to, show people you are worthy enough to be in this tech industry as a woman. And like facing these battles, and also like fighting it in your head as well as fighting it with the society expectations, and being kind of junior in this field, it just makes things very, very difficult, especially as Pitania mentioned, when the AI comes in and now all of the job descriptions and all of the skills that are required from software engineers are changing. So being the expert, like falling under the expert category of imposter syndrome, I think really, really needs help, and I do need to work on it. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also in a way, kind of how boring if everyone was already an expert and you had nothing to learn and, nowhere to go and, no growth or, anything like that. I mean, it'd be probably from a personal and professional point of view, it'd probably be quite boring, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely would be. I mean, I would say yes, have a lot of knowledge about one topic, but I would definitely say if I meet you and the only conversation that we can have is about that topic, we will not be meeting again. It's not going to be a conversation that I want to have with you anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think let's just move on a little bit now. So we've looked at the types of imposter syndrome. Now let's look a little bit more at what the causes are. So we'll go through these sort of fairly quickly. So one is depression. You feel unworthy and you have low self-esteem. Obviously, depression is clinical. So we're not going to really spend too much time on that one. Unrealistic expectations, which we have already mentioned, placing unrealistic expectations on yourself, and that often leads to feelings of inadequacy. Comparative thinking, which we have also mentioned, comparing to other high achievers and feeling like you're falling short. Negative self talk, so focusing on mistakes or failures rather than what you have achieved. And then external factors, which Ellie has mentioned quite a few times: societal expectations, gender roles, culture norms. Not fitting in can make you feel like you're just not good enough. So we'll talk through the external factors specifically in relation to the tech industry. I'm wondering, first of all, if either of you acknowledge any of the other causes.
I think for me, the external factors like societal expectation made me starting comparing myself to others, which led me to negative self-talk. I thought that because tech is seen more for like male-dominated field, I had to be extra good and do more. If I was not like the high achievers, I felt like I was not enough or didn't belong. Stuck with me. As a woman in tech, we will still face this because the culture hasn't really changed, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, that it's not like you feel them in isolation. It's a combination of one and another, and they sort of feed into this ecosystem of of causes. Britannia, what about you?
For me, I think in the society that we're in right now, with social media and everything, it's comparative thinking. I think before, we didn't know about each other's lives and what their achievements are until we met each other in person. And then you could tell me like, oh my gosh, I just got this promotion. You will be so shocked and surprised. But now with LinkedIn and Instagram and everything, you see your peers that you were out of uni with or in college with, and you see their successes, and then you start comparing it with your own, where it's, oh yeah, we're the same age, but we're not doing as much, or I'm not doing as much, or and it's also these categories that people put themselves in, the things that I would do before I'm 20, or the things that I would do before I'm 30, and you set so much pressure on yourself outside of buying a house. But then it's your career. I needed to be promoted to a principal engineer in 5 years' time, and then that doesn't happen. So you put so much pressure on yourselves because you're looking at people that you graduated engineering school with, and they are senior engineers, lead engineers, or principal engineers, and you're still kind of finding your way through your career. And then that puts a lot more pressure on you, more pressure on me, I would say, as well, where I feel like, okay, it's not that I haven't achieved anything, and that I couldn't do more. It's just that now I have this thing that I'm comparing myself to, and I need to be just like that, and I need to be just like them. And I learned a lot about that through that, where honestly our journey is very different. The opportunities that we gain are so different. And it doesn't mean that you're not good enough or that I'm not good enough. It's just I need to be a little bit nicer to myself.
Self-love.
Yeah.
When everybody's journey is going to be different, you know what I mean? Because, I mean, again, otherwise, how boring.
Right. Yeah. And is it just because you left university at the same time doesn't mean that you started at the same company at the same time, or that, you know, the obstacles that went through your life is the same. You know, even if you live in the same house, you're still going through various different things and you're thinking mentally about various different things as well. So all of those external factors affect how you go through life and how you look at work. And if work is predominantly your focus, you're going to put 100% of hours into work. And honestly, work is not 100% my focus. It's a part of my life, but I don't make it my whole life. I want to also spend time with my family. I want to also build a family for myself. So when I look at my achievements, I look at my achievements as a whole, not just my career, but the people that I impact in my life as well. So
Yeah,
Exactly. I mean, how I keep saying boring, but I mean, if all you do is work, then I mean, I think it's complicated for a lot of reasons, but particularly, um, like you need to have a life,
yeah,
I
and
wanted
and
sorry, I wanted to emphasize that, like what Preeti said, it's very, very important that how social media is making lots of impact on people's imposter syndrome, like because you compare yourself with others in LinkedIn, like by seeing a post, and then you start having a self-negative talk, and then that might end to the depression. So I want to emphasize like how important it is these days, like the social media is also having a big impact on people's imposter syndrome.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think part of the reasoning behind this podcast and the reason that we're talking is also because there, in terms of the sort of like male female split within the industry that you both work in,
mm,
know, like women only make up about a third of the workforce. So, inherently there are going to be sort of challenges there as well, because you're not just comparing yourself, you might not just be comparing yourself to the sort of workforce as a whole, but you might be thinking, well, how am I comparing to other women? But then also, how am I comparing to
Yeah,
men? So it's a very kind of complicated external factor picture.
mm,
that's so true.
I would definitely agree with that.
Right. So, shall we move on to what we can do about all of this and imposter syndrome and tackling imposter syndrome, which I think for a lot of people is the reason why they're here. They want some good coping strategy. So let's start with one particular so actually, what I wanted to start with was to say that, even very high achieving women feel imposter syndrome. So let me read a quote to you, and I want you to guess who it is. And if you are listening, along with us, then also think about, who maybe this might be. So every time I was called on in class, I was sure that I was about to embarrass myself. Every time I took a test, I was sure that it had gone badly. And every time I didn't embarrass myself or even excelled, I believed that I had fooled everyone yet again. One day soon, the jig would be up. Right. So, any ideas who that might be?
Mm.
I mean, it,
Might I ask for clues?
Sorry?
May I ask for clues?
I mean, she's a very well-known tech figure, and she's a woman, and there aren't that many of them, so that might be.
I don't know.
No.
No,
No.
it's Sheryl Sandberg.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah. So, someone who, I mean, I think is probably the most well-known, um, or perhaps one of the most senior women in tech. CEO, former CEO of Facebook. So if she feels that way, then you know, A, we're all
Yeah.
company, and B, probably systemically there is something wrong about, you know, kind of how we all feel. Um, so I'm going to move on to something called the humble realist. Okay, so Valerie Young is an expert in this field, and one piece of advice that she has is to picture the humble realist. So what she means by that is, first of all, you know, be aware of the moment that you're feeling imposter syndrome. So try and be sort of self-aware and think, okay, is this a moment where I may be feeling like I'm not achieving standards, or I'm comparing myself to other people, or, you know, whatever it might be, whatever we've talked about. And, you know, it could be in a meeting or in an interview in a sort of specific moment, and then take a step back and imagine what her quote unquote humble realist would say. So, an example that she gives is, um, like, sure, they said I did a great job, but that's just because they like me. So, maybe that's your internal monologue. But then the humble realist would say, it feels great to know others value my work and enjoy working with me. So this is a real exercise in sort of reframing and
Mm.
sort of thinking about, if you were to take a step back from your own feelings, what might you say if, you know, if you weren't yourself, if you were maybe your friend or somebody who knows you, you know, so that you take away that kind of negative bias that you might inherently feel. So what does that make you think? Is that sort of something that you think might be helpful, or maybe not so much?
I think the reframing mindset would help a lot with the negative talk that we have for ourselves. So, say for example, if someone in your team comes to you and say, "Okay, Ellie, we're working on this project and we want your expertise," um, and even if they say from a female perspective or anything like that, or we just want your input because you've worked on this software before, you won't be thinking, oh, it's because I'm the only one female in the team and they want to diversify the team, or it's because well, it would be because I did a really good job on the project that I'm working on. I contributed a lot, so they will see the value in my work, and that's the reason why they're trying to take me there. I think sometimes we need to look behind the gender perspective of it's because I'm female, or the race perspective it's because I'm black, because it's not that black and white. It's and try to find the other layer. It's because I'm good at my job. It's because I bring a lot to the table. It's because, my personality is awesome and it would just add so much more to the team. Like those type of things, the reframing will help you to stop those negative thoughts. And even if something negative does happen, your immediate reaction isn't, oh my gosh, it's because I'm a failure, or it's because I'm not good. It's because circumstances that you have no control over, like budget cuts, or senior management making the wrong decision. Because most times, senior management makes the wrong decision, but it trickles down to you, but it's not your fault. It's not because you did something. It's an external factor outside of your control. So if you focus on the things that you can control and build on more your self love, your worth, your value, then those negative talks kind of like go away.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think it's also about doing it like really incrementally, like really for sort of small things, not necessarily just always it's a really, you know, I'm really great, or this is, you know, it's about sort of specific moments and
Mm.
retraining on a very sort of small level. Sorry, Ellie, what were you going to say?
yeah. I also do agree and like this practice. I think it's like you find a mentor within yourself, but also everything needs practicing. So you might fail for the few times you try to do this because you might have a self-negative talk. But I think if you keep practicing it this way and find that peace within yourself and say, oh, I know I am very, very good for this job, and that's why they offered me to do this, it's going to solve maybe some of the issues. I think there are lots of, it's a complex situation to be in, as we discussed. But I think because all of the external things are going on, if you find that peace within yourself and like remove that self-negative talk, which is in your control, you also might change the culture of the industry because you feel good, you think you're worthy, you're going to inspire others. So I think, that I really agree, and I really like this practical, self-talk.
And I think it's just being a friend to yourself. You don't have to sort of think of it as being a mentor necessarily. Just like be your own friend. And I often think, if somebody else was in the same position that I was in. So, for instance, if a friend of mine did something that I had done, I wouldn't be thinking negatively about it. I would be seeing some positives. I would be seeing some room for growth, maybe. But, often I think it's really hard to do that for yourself.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. I said it's sometimes we're so tunnel vision on our view of ourselves. I think what we need to do is also look at how our close friends view us. They sometimes they don't necessarily say they like you just because they want to say that they like you. They say that they like you or they want to be around you because you're a good person, because of how much you've done for them, because they feel safe around you. So if you view it from their perspective, then you would view yourself a little bit better. I think we're so caught up in life's events and life's journey that we're so like, oh my gosh, negative, negative, negative. And we totally forget about everything else. So yeah, I think definitely reframing it and putting ourselves, taking away our lenses from, it was just like close our eyes for a bit and then just think, my friends are my friends because I'm a good person. I work, I'm still in this job because I know what I'm doing. And that type of framing would help you to overcome a lot of the things that we doubt ourselves about.
Yeah, I also want to say something over here to add something on the top of what you said. I think most of the women are having trouble for receiving a compliment, especially in England. So one of the things I think I would say, try to receive and don't question it. Like if your friend tells you, oh, you're a great person, you're a great friend, just say thank you. Don't say, oh, it's very kind of you, or like, I don't think so. Like, don't return it back, receive it. And when you keep receiving it, you're going to feel better and you're going to change your beliefs about yourself. And that was one of actually the advice one of the mentors I had gave me, and she's a female mentor. She told me, you're having trouble for receiving. You need to let people, when they give you a compliment about anything, you should receive it instead of like return it back and say, and like respond with a negative thing about yourself or negative thought. So I would say also be good at receiving while you are doing this practice.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's one of the things that I don't know how to do. I think when someone gives me a compliment, this like weird feeling comes over me, and I was like, "Stop!" You're like,
exactly.
You don't know what you're talking about. And then I don't know what my response would be. I was like, "Thank you, I guess," but I don't feel the same way.
And I mean, I think that we're all very quick to accept something that's said that's negative about us, but if there's something that's positive, then we think, oh no, that's that's not true. Or, but why would anyone, if someone's saying something that's that's negative and you believe it, why wouldn't you believe something if someone's saying it and it's positive?
Yeah, it's just easier to do. It's easier to do because you were already thinking it.
Yes, exactly. It's sort of confirmation bias, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Or you want to be polite.
Yeah, I guess.
I would say don't be
and actually,
polite in this case. Just receive it.
and actually that goes nicely into this sort of next sort of piece of advice, and this is from Sarah Loudon. She's the founder and CEO of Total Health. In a Forbes article, she talks about some of the ways that she overcomes imposter syndrome. And I mean, I would recommend that. We'll put a link in the description. But one of the ones that really stood out to me, one of her tips, is that you have to celebrate your success and find purpose in your defeat. So particularly the success part, I'm just wondering, with both of you, can you think of a time recently where you celebrated something that you did well?
I will pass it to Pritty for now.
A long pause.
I was gonna pass it over to you. A moment when I celebrated my success. I don't do that a lot.
Yeah.
No.
I will be honest. I don't celebrate my successes a lot. I think one thing I do is, if it's something positive that happened with me, my husband and I will go out and have dinner, just to mark the day as a celebratory event. And that's what I do. I think I celebrate others more than I celebrate myself.
Yeah. I think, Pritty, that's because you are the perfectionist, and the perfectionist people don't celebrate the small things. So, for me, I think I celebrate them in a different way. Like, I do something that makes me happy. And most of the times it's
like what? Can you give us an example?
So I just joined a rugby team like from last week, because I wanted like to make myself happy. And like,
but that's not celebrating a success. That's just,
yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't celebrate it like to go out for a dinner or having a drinks with friends. I do something that makes me happy for a long term. That's how I celebrate my success, I think, with myself. So I just joined a sport team, which makes me happy, and I just celebrate it that way. It's like I don't announce it, but I know why I'm doing it. So yeah, I mean, it's weird.
No, I mean, do things that make you happy, find joy. But in terms of, I think this advice is good. I mean, especially because it doesn't necessarily have to be like a big promotion or a big project or something that is a big milestone. I think sometimes you can if you take 30 seconds at the end of your workday and you think like, oh, like I did a good job resolving that conflict with the person, and I feel like we both kind of came out of it better, or I had a really productive day and I exceeded the expectations that I'd put on myself, or just like really really kind of small sort of things that you can feel proud about, that if you don't, again, it's about the sort of taking a step back and the noticing, and and thinking like, oh yeah, that was good. I think that was good.
A lot of my treats to myself is relation to food. I love food. So if I do something well, I think in relation to tech, it's normally a debugging issue, and I've been looking at this thing for so long, or I've called another person for another set of eyes to have a look at it, and then when I talk through the problem, I now find the answer. My go-to is, because I'm a savory person rather than a sweet person, I would go out and get a treat for myself. because I've done well.
Yeah.
So I would do that. Or, this, I deserve like a nice hot chocolate or a nice 15-minute break just to savor this moment. Those little things are what I do. I never really class them as celebrations. I just class them as just taking a break and just savoring
Yeah,
this moment.
I would say I have the same relationship to a sport like the relationship Pritty has with food. So I do something sporty for myself, but also I think coffees makes me happy. Like if I want to celebrate something in a day, I just go and make a coffee and dehydrate my body with that. So
Yeah.
Good. So
I don't. I think
you're
I should celebrate my successes a little bit more. I think that would also help to cement on the fact that I've done a good job, or I am doing well, or I am progressing and I am growing, and I'm not just stagnant in the development of my career or the development of my life. I think if we do take a little bit more time to pause, and I know we have multiple achievements in life, but to celebrate the one achievement before we move on to the next goal kind of helps us to put things into perspective as well. I need to do that more often.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we talked obviously now kind of what you can do for yourself and how you can, when you can't control the external factors, what you can do kind of internally. But let's talk a little bit now about those sort of external factors and, the things that we can actually advocate for to try to, just make our workplaces a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more fun, a little bit more productive. So these are from the Willett Clinic. So I'm just going to run through a few of their suggestions. So normalize mistakes and embrace a growth mindset. Promote open communication and support. Build a feedback culture. Promote work-life balance, so going and playing some rugby, and promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. So I think all of those are really good suggestions. Are there any particularly that you think would help to improve your workplaces, or that you think are already kind of being implemented? What are your kind of thoughts on that?
Sure, I can start with that. I think I would say the promote open communication and support and build a feedback culture has very, very a strong impact on like daily job. Because if you can communicate openly about like what you need, what support you need, what you are doing at the moment, and like how to bring that up in a very respectful way and ask people to help you is very, very helpful towards your career progression, as well as also be open to feedback. Like, don't take it personally. Like, feedbacks are always about how you did the job. It's not about who you are. Hopefully, like, your work doesn't relate that to who you are, but also like a feedback is about how you did the job, how you can do something better. It's not about like you. It's about how did you do that job. So, and also like be open to give feedback to others. Like don't be shy, because don't feel like, oh, it's a negative thing to tell my boss or to tell my mentor, you are doing this in a wrong way for me, because it's not gonna work. And like try to be polite. So giving a feedback is not being rude. It's about giving a feedback to people to improve themselves in a way that can help them and help you and help the whole company. So I really believe in this to giving a feedback and also having an open conversation and ask for support. Like if you need support, ask. Also like promoting diversity and inclusion is very important. But yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's quite important, and also for people who, I mean, particularly like the feedback, which I think is an excellent an excellent point. Some people do find it hard either to give feedback or to get feedback. So having, like a structure within your company, having, like just understanding how it works, feeling comfortable giving feedback, getting criticism, that kind of stuff, I think, is something in the workplace that in a lot of workplaces it's just not actually very good, but having it so that it's a little bit more codified can help quite a lot.
Yeah.
Pritty, what are you thinking?
I agree with a lot of the points that Ellie mentioned. In terms of the feedback, I say for the person giving the feedback, just be as critical as possible, or specific as possible. I don't like generic feedback. I don't learn from that.
Yeah.
I feel like if I'm planning growth for next year, I want you to say, I've worked with Britannia for 6 months, or 2 weeks I've worked with her. This is where she could improve at, or this is what she's doing well. When it's generic, I can't pick away something that I can improve on. I think if you are giving it feedback, let's make it be as helpful as possible. And then in terms of open communication and support, that is very essential, especially if you are just starting the job, as in relation to just coming out of uni or coming from a boot camp or whatever it is, or just starting the job in general. Having a buddy with you that works alongside you and shows you the ropes and is there to answer any questions, or if the team is open to share knowledge, that also helps you to progress more within the team or more within the company, and it shows a better work culture for you to immerse yourself in. A lot of the times the culture is, okay, so she's here, she's going to learn everything on her own, go read this material. That doesn't really teach you anything. You need to be a little bit more hands-on. You need to provide a little bit more, I would say, hand-holding, not necessarily, but a little more guidance. Because a lot of them are in a space where this is their first time. So a little bit of guidance would be helpful to make sure that they're doing the right thing, and to promote diversity and equity and inclusion. And I know it's a very hot topic at the moment. I think it's very important because the tech environment, as we mentioned, is very male dominated. And as a woman going into tech, you're experience a lot of male energy. And when you first experience that, if you've not been surrounded by boys your whole life or anything like that, it's another weird environment for you that you have to then become accustomed to. So that's one thing I think companies need to consider when they're employing diverse workers. Is your team going to be embracing that diversity? Have you created a space where that diversity is going to thrive, or are you just bringing someone in to just choke them out? It needs to be an environment of growth. It needs to be a nurturing thing where if I'm coming into your company, I'm looking at leveling up myself for each moment that I'm working with you, or for each project that I'm working on. So I think that is very important that companies need to implement. It needs to be a growth culture in all aspects, not just for a specific area.
I totally agree with what Pritty is mentioning. Also, I don't want to mention more specifically about what I want to say, but there are lots of negative things going out there about diversity and inclusion. But I would encourage everyone or employers, please keep hiring from, different backgrounds, because when you have different backgrounds in your team, you basically have different kind of way of thinking, and that also helped the company to improve itself in a way. The other thing I wanted also to mention we didn't talk about is normalizing the mistake. And it's very tricky to say, like, you have the culture of giving feedback and you don't blame them in a way, or you don't criticize them, and how you can give that feedback that they don't feel bad they made a mistake, or like how you can help them to give them a feedback that they don't feel they are blamed. And so I think so many things are going on, and also like the people are in the power, like, or the leaders or the seniors. I think they need to be very, very conscious about how they are improving the workspace culture in general, by like how people are actually giving feedback with each other. How do they give feedback to others? How do they advocating for diversity and inclusion? And how do they treat people differently? And like there were times that I felt it's like I've been treated differently, even if like it was not the person's intention. And I think that's what the diversity comes in. And like when you have people from different background, you also see like how they see the same behavior in a different way. You maybe even didn't notice your someone is going like to understand it in a different way. So yeah, I think so. It's very, very, very deep and interesting, you know, discussion to have if you want to keep continue talking about this.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I think maybe DEI is a fully separate podcast
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
for another time. But I do think sort of one interesting, or maybe something to consider is, when you make mistakes, that's when you learn. You don't learn things by doing things correctly. Unfortunately, you learn them by doing them incorrectly, and then fixing that and doing it correctly in the future. So I think that there is so much kind of negativity
Yeah.
around if you do something wrong, but actually that's how you learn.
Yes.
And if you think about when you're a kid, that's it's by falling down that you then get up and you persevere. So that kind of gets lost a little bit along the way, but I think it's important to remember that that is how you grow.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah,
So
I agree with that.
Okay, I feel that we have covered quite a lot of ground through this discussion. I hope that our listeners out there, and that especially you two are feeling a little bit better about where you are with imposter syndrome, and you have a few more tools in your toolbox to maybe be kinder and nicer to yourself going forward.
yeah, I definitely understood I'm the kind of under the expert category, and like while we are recording now, I am answering some questions in my head, and then I realize, oh my god, I was the expert kind of imposter syndrome, and that makes sense a lot now. And also I think having that mentor within yourself, which you need to be conscious about, like lots of things are going around you, and don't be afraid of like, if you fail for the first, second, or even the third time, to have that mentor within yourself and tell yourself something nice when someone is giving you the compliment. That's my second takeaway. And I hope to see, how people are using this podcast episode and like giving us some feedback and tell us what else they want to hear from these episodes, or how we can help them. I will pass it over to Preeti.
Yeah, I would say on this topic, I think overall I've heard a lot of negatives about the stigma of imposter syndrome and the feeling of it. And I think instead of viewing it as a negative, it's more a self reflection. It's understanding yourself, what limits you, what you find in yourself that you need to overcome. I think if you view it more on a your strength and weaknesses to do your no to live your life, to be honest, then you can pinpoint the things that you need to improve in yourself. A lot of it is mental. A lot of it is mental. A lot of it is that I've continue to look at today is the comparison of others. It's the setting so much high expectations on yourself. And that is, again, a personal thing. And as you mentioned, Jen, it's being nicer to yourself. Like, tell yourself you're doing well. Tell yourself well done. You've been through so many things in your life up to this point, or could be in your 20s, could be in your 30s, could be in your 50s, wherever it is. You're still alive. There's still so much that you can do. Just tell yourself well done. You've accomplished so much. And that's my takeaway. It's being a lot nicer to me, because I am deserving of it. I am worth it. And I would say that to the listeners out there. You are worth that love. You are worth that positive talk. You are, the same thing that you would tell your friends to encourage them to do the things that you're trying to encourage them to do. It's the same thing that you need to say to yourself to encourage yourself to, hey, get out of bed, or go do that new activity that you wanted to do that you've been telling yourself that you can't do, or trying to limit yourself for. So I would say, yeah, be kinder to yourself.
Yeah, also,
for sure.
I want to say, don't forget your power over all of the external things that are going wrong for you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Sort of be your own best friend. And I think, as I said, we've covered quite a lot, I think, today in this podcast, but also, like, it's one step at a time. So don't think that you kind of need to, do everything all at once. Like, a little improvement today or tomorrow or the day after is better than no improvements at all. So, just take everything in your stride. And yes, Ellie is absolutely right. Where you can advocate for yourself, for others, having a better, more inclusive, more supportive workplace, then absolutely try and take those steps and do what you can. So let us know, if this, as Ellie said, if this has been useful, if there are more sorts of topics, how you're getting along, the advice that you found useful, which kind of imposter you are. So, you can find us. We have a website, UnlockHerTech. We're on LinkedIn. Are we anywhere else?
Yeah, we have.
We're also on Instagram. Those are our active socials, so LinkedIn and Instagram. And we will be creating a WhatsApp group to start the conversation or get people talking. But that's something that's pending at the moment. But to reach out to us, you can contact us on our LinkedIn or on Instagram.
Yes, we have lots of things, lots of new things we want to do for our socials, and we are going to post more. But find us in our Spotify for our podcast episodes, and also we are going to add it to our Apple Podcast as well. And we have YouTube as well if you want to see the video version of this.
Right. So no excuses. You can find us everywhere.
Exactly.
And do give us your feedback. This is about creating a conversation, and as we said at the beginning, a sort of safe space. So do feel free. Next time we are going to look at sort of the difficulties around finding jobs, interviews, how imposter syndrome, some of the issues that we've been talking about today sort of feed into that, what you can do in terms of CVs, interview advice, that kind of stuff. We're hoping to have an expert who can come on and sort of, give some HR tips. So do get in touch if there are sort of specific questions or specific concerns that you have had in that process. And we hope to bring that to you very soon.
Yeah.
So
we are going to have guest episodes, and we also want to congratulate Pritty. Pritty, if you're happy to share, please share. But we are going to have guest episodes from next episodes, and we are going to deep dive into difficulties all women are facing in tech industry. And also we as individuals, as women engineers, face that difficulty too. So it's gonna be our own experience, to share our own experience as well.
So this will be the episode that you guys will see me on. For a while, I won't be on a few of them because I will be taking on a new role as a mother. So that's going to be a challenge in itself. But then that's also another experience that I'll be able to share and talk about on the journey of that and how that affects my work and everything like that. But that's another conversation for another day. But it's something I'm excited about, really looking forward to. But yeah, I hope you guys continue to listen to the podcast and learn a lot from what's going to be that we're going to be discussing. And a lot of the topics that's going to be discussed are things that are close to my heart. And the reason why this podcast is here is to have more discussions about that and to have that open communication that I don't think a lot of people are doing at this moment. So I think, yeah.
Yep.
Looking forward.
Me too.
Yeah, exactly. And we want to wish you all the best in your new role.
Thank you, Jen.
You know, you can maybe think up some podcast episodes when you're, up in the middle of the night.
And I will be up in the middle of the night. So it's exciting, but I'm a little bit anxious at the same time. It's going to be a huge change, but it's not something that I can control.
Yeah.
Well, baby's coming, so
yeah.
Yeah.
At least that's my understanding is, once they come out, they don't go back in.
No, they don't.
Right, so thank you everyone for listening. As we mentioned, please do get in touch if you'd like to, and hopefully we will hear, or you will hear from us very soon on the next episode of UnlockHerTech. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Take care.